Welcome back to our fourth theory lesson together. In our last lesson, we started to look at elements of rhythm. We started by talking about durational symbols. Then we went into beat and tempo, and we had a whole bunch of different words that describe tempo for us in a few different languages. Then we spoke about meter, which is the main grouping of beats in a bar. And then we started to talk about the division of beats in a bar and how those break into simple and compound meters. Finally, we started to look at time signatures for more simple meters. Now, today, we're going to start to look at compound time signatures. So here we go into compound time signatures. If the beat divides into three equal parts, as in compound time, the note value representing the beat will be a dotted value, as shown below. So again, when the beat divides into three pieces, we group those pieces together as a dotted note. So, for example, if our half note was our main pulse, you would feel it as 3 quarter notes per pulse, or I should say dotted half note being the pulse. We can see the same here for the dotted quarter note. Would be the division of the beat would be eighth notes. If it was a dotted eighth note, 16th, dotted 16th, 30 seconds. So if we have our main pulse, there's our main pulse. We have do 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 do. So dotted values present a problem where time signatures are concerned. For example, if there are 2 beats per measure and the beat note is a dotted quarter note, what would the time signature be? Would it be 2 4.5? Would it be 2 4 plus 8? Would it be 2 8 plus 8 plus 8? There is no easy solution, and the method that survives today is the source of much confusion concerning the compound beat. Simply stated, a compound time signature informs the musician of the number of divisions of the beat contained in a measure and what the division duration is. So what this means is that the top number of a compound time signature will always be 6 or 9 or 12, because 2 beats times 3 divisions equals 6, or 3 beats times 3 divisions equals 9, and 4 beats by 3 divisions equals 12. So here's some examples of compound time signatures. So in the first one, we have 6/8. Okay, that tells us that there's 2 main pulses in the measure, that each pulse would be a quarter note, a dotted quarter note, and the division of the beat is eighth notes. So we could see the division of the beat as the bottom number of that time signature, and remembering that we divide those by 3. 6/4 very similarly still has only 2 beats per measure, but this time the quarter note is the division of the beat. In 9/16 we have 3 beats per measure, and with the 16th note, or the 16 on the bottom, we know that the 16th note gets the beat. With 12/8, once again 12 divided by 3 is 4. And we know from seeing that 8 on the bottom that the 8th note gets the beat. So here you can see some familiar tunes that use compound beat. As before, the choice of the actual beat note is an arbitrary choice. So here you have, first of all, in 6/8. So we're saying 6/8 notes in a bar, which means they get grouped into two. Take me out to the ball game. So you have take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Or here's Down in the Valley. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Or finally, in 6/4, so that would be two main pulses with the quarter note being the subdivision, Pop Goes the Weasel. All around the cobbler's bench, the monkey chased the weasel. You can see from this discussion that compound time signatures do not follow the rule, so often learned by the student musician, that the top number tells you how many beats are in the measure and the bottom number tells you the note that gets the beat. Of course, there are some pieces in 6/8, for example, that really do have 6 beats to the measure, but such a piece is not really a compound duple. A measure of 6/8 performed in 6 does not sound like compound duple. Instead, it sounds like two measures of simple triple, or 3/8. In true compound duple, the listener will hear 2 compound beats to the measure, not 6 simple beats. In the same way, a slow work notated in 2/4 might be conducted in 4, which would seem to the listener to be a simple quadruple. In both cases, the usual division value has become the main beat. So you can see that here. If we were in a slow 6/8, instead of doing like a 1, 2, 1, 2, it would sound like 2 bars of 3/8. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or a slow 2/4 as 1, 2 would become 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4/8. The reverse also happens. That is, the usual beat value sometimes becomes the actual division value. For example, a fast waltz or scherzo is almost always notated as simple triple, usually as 3/4. But the aural effect is of 1 beat per measure, which we might use the term compound single. If you don't know the metric convention of such pieces, you would probably assume, when hearing them, that they were in compound duple because the measures tend to group in pairs. At this time, please complete checkpoint 2 and assignment 2-4. Great. Let's move on to summarizing time signatures. So, there are 2 types of beat, simple and compound, and 3 common meters, duple, triple, and quadruple, which can be combined in a total of 6 ways. For each of these 6 combinations, there is a number that will always appear as the top part of the time signature. So here, once again, we review that in simple duple, there are 2 main beats. In simple triple, 3 beats. Simple quadruple, 4 beats. Whereas in compound duple, there are 6 beats that get felt in 2. In compound triple, there are 9 beats that get felt in 3. And in simple quadruple, there are 12 beats that get felt in 4. If you understand the word subdivision, another way of thinking of it is simple time subdivides into 2s, and compound time subdivides into 3s. A listener can usually recognize the beat and meter types of a passage without seeing the music. Therefore, you can usually say what the top number is of the time signature. However, to know what the bottom number of the time signature is, you have to look at the music, because any number representing a note value can be used for any meter. So, as a reminder, if your bottom note is a 1, that means your main division in simple time is a whole note, or in compound time is a dotted brev, so 3 whole notes. If your bottom note is a 2, that means that your durational beat in simple time is a half note, or in compound time 3 half notes, so a dotted whole note, and so on and so forth. Remember that the bottom number of a time signature, that is the leftmost column in this table, stands for the beat value in a simple time signature and the division value in a compound time signature. Some more information on durational symbols. So, when rhythms are notated, it is customary to use rests, beams, ties, and dots in such a way that the metric accent and the individual beats are emphasized rather than obscured. Several incorrect and correct examples are notated here. So, the first example you see a 8th note, then a half rest, and then an 8th note. While yes, this does take up the full value of time, we really try to complete the beat. So what you see as the correct thing is you have, instead of a half rest, you have an 8th rest, a quarter rest, and an 8th rest. So we want to complete those 3 main beats. So we have an 8th note and an 8th rest. That's our first beat. Then we have the quarter rest, which is our second beat, and then finally the 8th rest and the 8th note, which is our third beat. If, for example, instead of having that last 8th note, it was a rest as well, it would be completely acceptable to replace the quarter rest, 8th rest, and final 8th note, if it was an 8th rest, with a half rest. We can see here in 3/8 that they've broken it into 2 groups of 16th notes, but we want to try to keep each beat themselves. So each beat should be an 8th note, so we've paired up the 16th notes. You can see other examples here, but try to remember that we try to complete the beat. Of course, it is correct to notate rhythms so as to obscure the metric accent when that is the desired result. Syncopation, that is, rhythmic figures that stress normally weak beats or divisions, are frequently notated in this way. So we can see here that they are specifically not completing the beat, but they are doing that for a particular reason, and that is to emphasize this idea of syncopation. Once again, syncopation being when pulses that are not usually stressed become stressed. We learned in the past that you have strong, weak, or strong, weak, medium, weak, strong, weak, medium, weak. So what happens if instead of accenting the main pulse, da 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 da, I accent offbeats, dum dum da da dum da 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 dum. It gives a very different feel to the music. More involved figures, such as this figure, are especially common in 20th century music. So you can see here that while it is in 2/4, so we have 2 bars of 2, with the quarter note being the division, that things go over the bar. Don't worry about that right now, but lots of weird things happen when it comes to 20th century music. A grouplet or tuplet, which is the more accurate word we want to use, refers to the division of an undotted value into some number of equal parts other than 2, 4, 8, and so on, or the division of a dotted value into some number of equal parts other than 3, 6, 12, and so on. And you can see that here. So if you have a quarter note of time and you want to add a grouplet, so instead of it just being 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you could put a grouplet in to give it that 3 feel. So maybe you had something like 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and. Or perhaps you're in 3/8 and you're like, or sorry, let's say 9/8, 1, 4, 1, 4, 7, 8, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So where those don't fit in, that would also be a tuplet. Of all the possibilities, the superimposition of triplets on a simple beat is the most common. So that is within one beat of music, dividing it into 3 equal parts. The note value of a tuplet is determined by the next longer available note value. For example, a third of a quarter note is longer than a 16th note, but shorter than an 8th note. So the 8th note is chosen to represent it. When a single stem note is notated on the staff, the stem should go up if the note is below the middle line and down if the note is above the middle line, just as normal. A note on the middle line theoretically can have its stem point in either direction, but most professional copyists consistently put a downward stem on notes that occur on the middle line, like we see here. Beams are used to connect durations shorter than a quarter note when the durations occur within the same beat, kind of like we were talking about a few minutes ago. Not all professional copyists follow the same rules for determining the stem directions of beamed notes. My preference is to decide the direction of the stems on the basis of the note that is farthest away from the middle line. That is, if the note that is farthest away from the middle line is below it, all the stems that are to be beamed together will point upwards, just as in this example. At this time, please complete assignment 2-5. So this basically takes us to the end of Elements of Rhythm, but first, a brief summary. Rhythm refers to the time aspect of music, as contrasted with the pitch aspect. The relative duration of a musical sound is specified by a durational symbol, such as a whole note, half note, and so on. One or more dots may follow a durational symbol, each one adding to the duration 1/2 the value of the note or dot that precedes it. A tie connects two notes, creating a value equal to their sum. Most durational symbols use stems, and there are conventions of notation regarding the direction of those stems. Beams are often used to group together, but not to tie, durations shorter than a quarter note. The basic pulse of a musical passage is called the beat, just like your heartbeat, and the tempo is the rate at which the beat occurs. The general tempo may be indicated by one of many terms in English or other languages, or it may be specified more exactly as a metronome marking. Beats usually group into patterns of 2, 3, or 4 beats, referred to as duple, triple, and quadruple meters, respectively. Associated with each meter is its own pattern of metric accents. Beats in any meter usually divide into 2 equal parts, that being a simple beat, or 3 equal parts, that being a compound beat, giving the rise to such terms as triple simple and duple compound. A grouplet is used when a beat divides in a way that is contrary to the prevailing division of beat. A time signature is a symbol that tells the performer the beat and meter types and what note value will represent the beat. A listener can identify the beat and meter types, but not the note value that represents the beat, just by listening to the music. The beat values for simple time signatures are always undotted notes, whereas those for compound time signatures are always dotted notes. And with that, Elements of Rhythm draws to a close. Can't wait to see you back here next month when we take on triads and seventh chords. Have a great day.